Have you ever wondered what the Northeast Quadrant of Calgary has to offer? This video is a part of my 8-video series of touring Calgary. I will virtually go through every single quadrant and share my insight with you. Now, I do want to start off this video by calling out my Calgary Flames mustache. It is not very often that I have this unique style, but the Calgary Flames are currently in round 2 of the playoffs, so I might be stuck rocking the style for a little while, and I do want to apologize in advance. If the mustache has been removed, you know that Calgary is no longer in the playoffs. But anyways, my name's Adam Fife, and I try my absolute best to create informative content to help educate you and the people you know about Calgary real estate. Please consider subscribing and browsing the channel to find other relatable topics that you could find helpful now or even later in life. So let's get into it. Northeast Calgary has 39 communities and still expanding quite quickly. So here's the community map for 2022, and what we're going to do is concentrate on the red quadrant here. But what I'm going to do is actually take this one step further and highlight it on Google Maps. So how this is going to work is we're going to start on Deerfoot Memorial. So right about here, we're going to actually go all the way from Memorial all the way down to 68th Street. We're going to go down 68th Street and up the train line all the way up to about here. Because if you look at the community map, it does go on the outskirts of the city. So what we're going to do is we're just going to go all the way up here, and then we're going to shoot all the way up, straight all the way up, past Tony Trail. We're going to go all the way over to Deerfoot. Now it gets a little weird here when we look at the community map. So we're going to go satellite and we're going to zoom in to about Deerfoot here. So if we actually look at the community map, you can see that it actually, first of all, goes all the way up and over, but right now it kind of dips over near Lewisburg and kind of down. So if we actually look at it, we can see there's a wedge. So if we actually go down here and then up the train line, and then we go back over to Deerfoot, and I'll switch it over here. So we'll go back over to Deerfoot to kind of highlight that little wedge there, and then basically we just go all the way down. We go all the way down Deerfoot, all the way down back to Memorial Drive, right about here. So if we do that on the map, we just shoot all the way down Memorial Drive, all the way down to about here. So just like every other video, I'm going to start off with the pros of the quadrant and end with some of the cons of the area. So the Northeast Quadrant of Calgary is pretty big and has a pretty good layout and fairly easy to memorize for the most part. Now, I'm going to start this thing off by talking about how you can purchase a decently sized newer home for less money. Now, if we look at this chart here, just going to expand it up a little bit, you can see that the Northeast is considerably lower than the rest of Calgary. That means that you can purchase a somewhat similar home for upwards of $100,000 or less in the Northeast. Now, this stat, just like every other stat, needs a little bit of explanation as well. Places like the Northwest and the West have very, very large homes, massive lots, and some amazing views. Their price points will be naturally higher compared to the other quadrants. In the Northeast, although they do have newer homes for less money, from my experience at least, the lots are generally smaller than most areas of town. Next, let's talk about the C-Train. Now, the C-Train is beautifully situated in the Northeast. So right from downtown here, you can see that it goes all the way up, pretty much all the way up Memorial Drive, and then shoots straight up 36, all the way up 36, right into their little city center or town square, if you would, of Northeast. The nice thing about the C-Train here is it actually passes a lot of amenities. So they do have a little town square here, if that's what you want to call it. But if you actually scroll down here, you can see just a lot of amenities going on, including Sunridge Mall. So this area here is just jam-packed with amenities. So for people all along the C-Train that's walking or biking distance, have a good access to those amenities right from the C-Train. Next, I'll touch on a little bit of traffic flow, and that's compared to other areas. I found that the traffic flow in the Northeast is pretty good. Now, of course, there are a few bad spots, like every other community out there, but for the most part, from my experience, I found that the Northeast to be pretty good. Please feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, as I do understand that there are some bad spots, but I would have to say that the Northeast flows pretty well. Now, you can see that there's some pretty gnarly red spots here along Deerfoot. Now, it is about 3 o'clock on a Thursday afternoon, so the traffic does get backed up around the rush hour time, and I do plan on doing a video dedicated to the traffic of Calgary in the 2 rush hours of the day. So look forward to that. As you can see, that the Northeast, yes, of course there are a little bit of red spots, but when considering other quadrants of the area, the Northeast is pretty good. So one of the more obvious things about the Northeast is the multicultural foods, the markets, and the community centers here. The Northeast is well known for its diversity. I've definitely brought this up in previous videos where I talked about how the majority of Calgarians are foreign-born. If you're new to the country or even new to the city and you have traditions from another country or culture, the Northeast may be a good place for you to start doing some research and seeing what it has to offer. Depending on what you're looking for or trying to accomplish or even to get involved with, the Northeast has many different activities based on traditions from abroad. It is great to see just how inclusive Calgary can be when it comes to this type of thing. So this last one is a little bit of a pro, but it can also be a con at the same time, and it's a fairly good transitional item to talk about with the Northeast, and that's the airport. So just like North Calgary and Northeast Calgary, the airport makes for an easy commute for professionals who may be flying in and out of the city for their careers. Now, some people like myself actually enjoy the fact that the airport is within city limits, kind of like Vancouver, but others don't like some of the traffic that's associated with the airport. Places like Edmonton and Toronto have their airports just outside of the cities, which help reduce noise as well as the traffic flow that go in and out of there. Personally, I think it's fairly convenient to have the airport within the city of Calgary, as it is well known for its tourism. Now, I really do hope that one day that they can connect the C train over to the airport to give a more direct, consistent access to downtown quickly. Alright, so all those things were pretty good, but how about some of those cons? Now, let's remember that this is only a personal opinion. It wouldn't be a very good overview of the northeast of Calgary if I didn't include some of the cons that might be negatively affecting the northeast quadrant. So I'm going to start this list off by expressing my personal opinion on how the northeast of Calgary lacks very large recreational parks and pathways. Almost every other quadrant has very large parks and pathways to kind of get away from the city, get a little bit of exploration, and almost get lost in nature, whereas the northeast doesn't really seem to have quite that. Yes, of course it has some parks around here, but it's nothing like the Nose Hills, the Bowness Parks, the Glenmore Reservoir, or those Fish Creeks, where you can actually get out there, go for a very long walk, and enjoy a little bit of nature. Let's be honest, Calgary is very well known for its outdoor activities. So next on the list, and just like the Eastern Quadrants, homes tend to take a little bit longer to sell when comparing to other areas of town. Now, if you take a look at this stat here, you can see that the months of supply in April tended to be a little bit larger than other quadrants in the whole city, meaning that it was a little bit slower to move compared to other quadrants, as well as a lower price point. Now, the sales to new listing ratio was only 58% compared to the general average of around 73% citywide. While not a horrible thing, it is still something to consider depending on your situation. Are you looking to settle for a couple years and move on, or are you looking for something a little bit more long term? Every situation is a little different, so these numbers can help shine a light on what is best for your personal situation. So make sure to utilize these numbers well in advance before making any sort of large decision like investing in real estate. So with that being said, and selling real estate in Calgary for quite some time, I've heard very mixed reviews from clients about the Northeast. Some people really enjoy the newer homes for cheaper prices. They enjoy the multicultural activities within the communities, while others seem to get pretty annoyed and just stay completely away from the Northeast entirely. Now, I do want to be very clear and say that I do not have a personal opinion on that, as I do not personally live in the Northeast myself. I have helped facilitate some transactions, but for the most part, I only receive information from clients and their personal experiences within the area. Now, I've been told that people feel like the crime rates in the Northeast tend to be a little higher. Well, there is a slight truth to that. When you look at a heat map like this, you will see that there is crime all over the city. It is very hard to single out a community as a whole, as there are always different factors that get put into play when talking about crime. For a prime example, I actually live in a fairly red heated zone here on this map, and I wouldn't want to live anywhere else because I absolutely love my community and my personal experience here has been nothing but amazing. Yes, there are some higher numbers on this graph, but don't completely deter away from an area without doing a little bit of a deeper dive into that community. I personally feel like that's very important, especially if that area really speaks to you and your lifestyle. Do yourself a favor and do a couple hours of additional research on an area because there's going to be a lot of different opinions depending on what people experience. So all in all, I really don't mind the northeast of Calgary. If you're looking for that newer home for a cheaper price, or if you're trying to get into that first home and start building equity fast so you can get into that next step within the next 3 to 5 years, then the northeast should be of consideration for you. Just like every other community, quadrant, and area of town, a couple hours of research online can really paint a great picture to see if that area is right for you and your family. So if you feel like I've missed something because I just gave a quick highlight, please feel free to comment below, as I would like to continue to do this year over year as Calgary continues to grow. Don't forget to check out my channel, as I do create other forms of informative content that will help teach you all about Calgary real estate. So until next time, peace.